Primal Chaos.
Hey guys, Primal Chaos here. Welcome to the channel. Now, if you hear any weird noises or anything, I'm going to do my best to fix it up in post, but I got a 3D print happening just there that is like, I thought would be done by now. So if you hear anything that's annoying you, trust me, it's 10 times worse for me. But anyway, here we go. Polyphia. We all know, anybody who's been around long enough on this channel knows that, Polyphia blow my mind. They have from the first, the first thing I reacted to was Goat. And we got a new one. And every time I listen to these guys, it just makes me feel a little bit worse about myself. And I mean that in the best possible way. These guys have definitely made me sort of think more about guitar and practice and things like that. And that's always a good thing. And I hope that, people out there who are guitarists, and let's face it, if you're watching this, it's a pretty good chance you are. I hope that you find inspiration in what these guys do as much as I do. Because there's, I feel like for me personally, there's been so long since somebody's done something with the guitar that's really made me question and rethink how I play and what's capable of being played, And, I come from more of like a blues rock background because that's what was when I was in the 90s, when I was in my teens, my formative years, when I picked up a guitar. Your guitar heroes were, people like Slash, which is, blues rock. If you were eclectic enough, people like Steve Vai or if you had an older brother, you might be into Steve Lukather or guys like that from like the 70s or whatever. But it was tough. Everybody had, if there was guys like neoclassical guys like Yngwie Malmsteen, but for the most part, there wasn't a broad range of influence as far as styles and genres. I guess there was, but it was way easier to be more niche back then because you didn't have all of the internet at your fingers. You were exposed to the music that you could get your hands on or that was playing on TV or you heard on whatever weirdo radio station you found that played the music you like, which was rare because there was about 3 radio stations, that were worth listening to anyway. And so we didn't have the internet. We couldn't go out and discover, those more sort of niche guys. Probably the most interesting niche guitarist that I was obsessed with back then was Nuno Bettencourt. To this day, I still have the Nuno Bettencourt Washburn. It's a little modified and it's been kicked around an awful lot. I've had it since I was 16. The frets are destroyed on this. It barely plays now. I have to get it refretted or at least get a fret dress on it. But he was an interesting player because he was a single player in a 4-piece band. So rhythm and lead parts, they always defaulted to him. He had to do what he did. He obviously had a really good relationship with Pat Badger, who was the bass player at the time, and they worked it out. And so what made me obsessive about Nuno was not only was he an incredibly articulate player, he was also he was more of a rhythm person more than he was a guitar player. So, he'd play percussion and stuff as well. And that allowed him to have this amazing physicality for rhythm, his parts were often more rhythmic than they were melodic. And his ability to jump between rhythm guitar, I guess more of a lyrical hybrid rhythm guitar and lead was something that I'd never had any experience with. And that always blew my mind. Polyphia are very much the same. If you're a young guitar player coming up today and you came across these guys, even then you'd still be like, what are these guys doing? It's so unusual. And they don't typically have what you'd consider to be rhythm guitar, because Scotty and Tim pretty much play often the same things or variants of the same things. It's very rare that somebody will be sitting. If anything, the rhythm guitarist is Clay on bass, and even then he's playing incredibly articulate bass parts as well. So it's kind of like it's all just hell for leather all the time, but in a way that's so beautifully pieced together, it just all interlaces and locks, and it just becomes this cohesive unit. That's what bamboozles me. They play fast. There's been people playing fast since the dawn of time. They play all over the neck with incredibly complex arpeggiated phrases. They do interesting harmonic things. All of these little bits and pieces that come together to make it sort of, as an overall picture, it's bamboozling. It's so much going on. It's chaos. But to me, what actually is more engaging and more interesting is, well, for one, the style with which they can, Tim or whoever, when they compose stuff, is super interesting because it's a very 2020 digital age kind of way of composing, but also It's just, you know, the way everything interlocks together without anybody ever having default down to, I'm just going to play something in the background while you shred. It's all this whole mechanism. It's like a Swiss watch where every piece is just together, you know, delivering an end result, which is telling the time. But, you know, there's 50 different parts going in all different directions, or in these cases, 4 parts. But each one is is as crucial as the next. And that's a testament to just their pure audacity, and also their ability to focus on the goal and not the way of getting there, if that makes sense. You know, the journey, I guess, is part of like the richness of it, is how everything fits together. Let's jump right in. I've waffled on way too long. Polyphia, Neurotica. I'm neurotic just watching this. Here we go. It's like chiptunes. It sounds like Mario. I feel like a boink, boink, boink. Oh, God, their production's good. Simple. I mean, oh. It's a real interesting patch, actually. Oh. What? Actually, yeah. Can someone tell me what that is? I mean, I know that those guys use can't remember the name of the plugin or whatever, but whether or not they're using that or they're doing something else, these are very atypical guitar tones, right? This isn't your typical plug straight into an amplifier and pressing go, obviously. But there's something cool about Scotty's tone there. It's organic still. It sounds like a guitar amp, but it's truncated. It's kind of like it's very noise gated. But there appears to be something else there as well, and it doesn't sound low enough to be an octaver. There's definitely some sort of phase or flange on there or something to give it that sort of wow. It could just be like a synth pedal or something like that underneath, or maybe it's just MIDI tracked or something. I don't know, but there's something to it that makes it sound organic but inorganic at the same time. It's like a synthesized version of a guitar tone. Yes, he plays in their fake bass as well, which kind of, he doubled a lot of that lick there. So it sounded like there was an octaver on, but then they split paths. You know? This is... You know, but there's obviously bass guitar. That drop beat, man. Holy shit. I feel like Tim or Scotty could do... Is it Scotty or Scott? I feel like I'm just cavalier and I'm just like we're mates or something. Scotty, you know, it's Scott LePage. They could both do either one of them could do an instructional tutorial video on guitar muting. You see people and they'll have like they'll have some sort of like a dampener around the first fret for doing a lot of tapping and things like that, so that you haven't got horrible open string noise, right? That's like, unless you're actively stopping the strings from vibrating in front of the pickup, it's always going to make noise, right? And so if you're doing like articulated sort of parts, like, you know, where you're not using every string And if you don't know exactly how to mute, you'll be doing that same thing. And sympathetic vibrations start happening. You get all of this noise, right? So immediately, players who sort of understand how to mute will automatically lay a hand here and, you know, using the other parts of this finger that aren't actually actively working, they're just generally just casually resting on other strings. So without even thinking about it, if I was doing like a part like that, whatever it may be, or whatever the part may be, automatically, without even thinking, when I picked up the guitar, I gave you a bad example because automatically my palm rests on the top 3 strings. So these ones down here won't make any noise. They won't ring out, but this string is left open because the palm is only muting the top strings that are necessary. And then this hand down here, this finger is fretting this note and that one, but down here on the E and the B string, I'm just gently touching the tops of those strings with this part of my finger so that they're muted. They're not doing anything. See that I'm getting nothing out of them, but this one will ring because I'm fretting that, muting the others. And so automatically, I can do that without all of this ephemeral extra racket that goes on with guitar, right? Particularly if you've got sounds with reverbs and delays. Something like that will just go on forever and it's really frustrating. And the same can be said for picking as well. Often people will palm mute, so your hands resting here so that when you're playing notes, see right there, just by playing that simple note, half of all of these strings down here are being muted by my palm, all the way down to the string I want. And then the top half of the guitar, my index finger again is muting those strings automatically. And so I don't think that there's anybody currently that I'm aware of that plays cleaner than these guys. And, you know, they could write essays about how these guys managed to do that. Now, some of it will be processing because there's things called noise gates where as soon as a sound gets quiet enough, it'll just cut off. The problem I have with things using that on guitar, sometimes it gets a little bit sketchy because you have to tune them so that if you're trying to hold a note and let it ring out, sometimes the note will ring out and get quieter and quieter and then immediately cut off. And it's really audible and it's annoying. Or then sometimes it'll fall down into the noise floor. So you'll start to hear that noise and then it'll cut off. And it's always a bit of a balancing act. And, you know, some plugins and some pedals and stuff do a really good job of sort of eradicating a lot of that noise for you. So you can play a little bit cleaner. But if you plug a guitar straight into an amplifier, you have to do the work yourself. You have to mute. A technique I wasn't aware of is that you can actually mute with the pick too. As you pick the string, you bring the pick back to rest against the string. That seems really complicated and it'll probably take a lot of practice to nail that down, but you can do really clean scale runs and stuff like that where you want something to sound really staccato, right? Sort of thing, you know? Yeah, but these guys, I mean, listen to this. There's not a single note on any of the instruments that's playing that shouldn't be there. Oh. See, again, that sounds like a guitar, right? Oh, that's beautiful. Wow. long have they been wearing masks? I just noticed. If they've been wearing masks from the beginning, that's just testament to how like engaging their playing is, because I just noticed it. And they match the guitars, which is great. Yeah, they're just, previously they did a lot of lo-fi stuff, but this is real chiptunes kind of thing, Sounds like retro video games. That was wild. All right. Hang around after the break and I'll give it a bit more of a rundown, but man, these guys. These guys. Hey guys, today's video is brought to you in part by Skillshare. Now, anyone who knows me will tell you that I have way too many interests and hobbies. I'm also what's known as an autodidact, which means I'm largely self-taught, but my interests vary wildly amongst an entire gamut of disciplines. Disciplines ranging from things like music production, composition, video production, YouTube content creation, 3D printing, 3D modeling, electronics, woodworking, drawing, painting, graphic design, computers and code. The list just goes on and on. And in order to become proficient in all of these disciplines, it's taken me a lifetime of skills gathered piecemeal here, there, and everywhere. By and large, it just takes so long to develop a skill level in any of those individual things. But it ain't the old days anymore. And today we've got services like Skillshare, a service that provides you with near limitless amounts of information for one small subscription fee. Seriously, all of their curated learning modules and lessons and classes. They're all available at your fingertips. What if you're a graphic designer and then one day you just need to learn something very specific in the world of spreadsheets? Your Skillshare account has you covered. And the courses are all curated, meaning that there's a standard level of competency required for anyone to be teaching a course. And the best part about all this is Skillshare offers free trials. So all you need to do is click the link in the description. It'll take you to their site and you can start learning right now. Or, wait till after my video. But either way, look, Skillshare. So what's left to say about Polyphia? They're just built different. That's all there is to say, really. But look, if I want to talk aesthetically about the music video, it's really cool. They found an incredible art space. I'm assuming it's a gallery or something like that they filmed in. But it seems like they've used a computer-controlled robot for the camera work. It seems, because it seems like they've got these repetitive motions and stuff like that sort of zoom in, zoom out. Could have been done in post, but I don't think so because it parallaxes. You can see the camera moving around and things like that. Plus it's rotating 360 and stuff. Do you know how hard it was to find a thumbnail? I usually do that while the ad break's running. Of finding anybody who just occupies some sort of section of the screen, not inverted or sideways. It's actually really, really, really tricky. If you were looking for somebody to be a hero for your guitar playing, I think you could do a lot worse. I think you really could. There's going to be people who watch this and comment something along the lines of, it's not for me, it's soulless, it doesn't have heart, it doesn't speak to me, and that's fine. That just means that, you probably have influences outside of this, or maybe you're interested more in traditional blues rock aesthetic kind of music, or something else, or maybe jazz, or there's a lot of jazz components to what these guys are doing as well, I suppose. But it's just I was saying to someone earlier, I said, look, at the end of the day, all records have a different groove. You know what I mean? There's something for everybody. They're all different. But I think if you're starting out, if you can tolerate this kind of music, that's a terrible way of saying it. I mean, this is fantastic. It's amazing. But even if it's not, what I'm getting at is, even if this isn't 100% your thing, if you're listening to this and it sounds a little bit clockworky and a little bit too processed and all that, setting that aside, if you wanted a role model for playing, I think you could take the fundamentals of what these guys can teach you, and it will improve any other format of guitar playing that you might be sort of like, in the market for, so to speak. Or like, if you're, eventually if you go on to create a new sound, or if you want to play something that's super lyrical with a lot of heart and a lot of boomer bends, as Tim would say, or whatever it is that floats your boat, taking these guys' fundamentals with you will make you a better player. It's 100% fact. You know, I think a lot of what it is, I think probably the way I understand it, and people keep telling me there's behind the scenes videos on Tim's channel you can watch, and I've never gotten around to it because typically if I'm watching YouTube videos about music or whatever, I'm doing it in a reaction. And I don't get a lot of spare time outside of that. So I will eventually get there. I really want to see what makes this tick. But the way I understand it is typically Tim will compose a piece electronically and then learn how to play it on guitar, which is really counterintuitive to how most people work. They'll pick up a guitar and they'll come up with a riff. They'll be like, oh, that riff's cool. I really like that. I'm going to work on that and turn it into a song. That could be a cool verse or a cool chorus or something like that. Or, you know, there's a million different ways you can start writing a song, but typically the way you do it isn't programming it in Ableton or, you know, through complex MIDI arrangements and stuff, and then going, okay, how do I play this impossible piece of arpeggiated music on a guitar? That said, in this case, it works brilliantly because, look, how many other bands do you know that sound like Polyphia? I can't think of any. It's not really my genre, but I don't know of anyone else who sounds kind of like this. The closest I can think of is occasionally you'll come across a guitarist's video that goes viral where you'll have, you know, they'll play acoustic guitar very percussively, and then they'll detune and retune strings melodically as they're playing and things. We've all seen those guys. And I've brought this up before, but that's kind of the closest thing I can think of to this, where it's kind of like the technique is the song, not so much the playing, you know? And yeah, this is, it's definitely, for me anyway, this seems to be a new genre, and whether you like it or not, it's, and I certainly do. I don't want to sound like I don't. I just know that there's plenty of people out there, particularly more old school dudes, who might be like, this isn't for me, you know? And I don't know why I'm defending Polyphia against those guys. Everybody knows they can go find their own music. You know, if this isn't for everybody, nothing is for everybody. But look, if at the end of the day, what these guys doing is pure brilliance. It's some of the greatest technical artistry I think I've seen on a guitar. And they've got two of them in their band. It's not like there's Tim and a rhythm guitar player. Scott's amazing. He's as good as Tim. He has to be. He has no choice, you know? And again, everybody else, both the Clays are stellar players. And I'm not sure how much input they put in, like after Tim sort of goes, hey, here's the song, guys, or I assume that's how it works. It may be more organic than that, I don't know, but I'm sure that they put in their own flourishes and their own parts and things like that. I would be very surprised if they didn't. But listen, my point is, as a guitar player, you could do way worse than using these guys as at least some kind of an influence for your technique, is what I'm getting at. Because they play super clean. And even if you're a noise rock kind of dude, there's going to be times when you need to play a melody or a lick or something that doesn't sound like the guitar's like on fire. You know what I mean? Muting is something that seems to be a forgotten art in a lot of cases. And we went through that, but also not playing everything at maximum gain. That's the crazy thing about a lot of these guys' tones too, is that they're low gain. And you know, the impetus when you first get an electric guitar and an amp is to just crank the shit out of the distortion. And these guys seem to be above that. They figured out, let's just find the right tone for this part. And of course, part of that is being in this 2022 digital age where you can have Kempers and things like that, where you can have a million patches and you can flick through 17 different patches in a song. You can even program it to happen via MIDI with a click track if you want to. You don't even have to hit a pedal. You can just have 50 different sounds, you know, for each track. Every little articulation can have a different guitar sound if you want to. And, you know, again, that's part of the thing where people will go, there's no soul in that. You know, back in the day, we'd plug in, turn it up, and you'd play the song. Sure. But if the technology is available, there's going to be people who use it. And there's going to be people who carve out new niches and new genres using that sort of technology as well. And I think that art in all forms is valid, and there's a place for it and there's an audience for it. And, you know, God bless these guys. They found their audience, and it's YouTubers. So, yeah, that's about all I got to say on this, man. But look, Polyphia, I'll always jump back and check out these ones because these guys, they always bring something new. Like I said, they seem to, a lot of the stuff I've heard previously, and again, it's not that much, is lo-fi sort of vibe, and this is definitely moving into a different electronica sphere as far as like it sounds like chip tunes and stuff like that, which is again a cool kind of lo-fi sort of niche, or you know, like an electronica niche. It'd be interesting to see where they go next. That's part of the journey of following an artist is understanding where they came from and where they're going to and why they make the decisions they make. And I think I've mentioned this before, but like when somebody looks at a painting, you know, like say Picasso, right? He went through his Cubist phase where it was always really weird. When people say it's a Picasso, they kind of look like that. A Picasso, there's an eye over here and there's a nose here and there's a mouth over there. It's cubism or whatever it is. And, you know, some people would look at that with an untrained eye and go, that's crap. A 6-year-old could do that. But the people who know Picasso know that he is an incredibly articulate and elaborate realism painter. And so why? The question is, why does he suddenly start painting Cubist? Why does he start changing, you know, moving as far away as possible from realism and beautiful portraiture and stuff like that, and painting portraits of people that's essentially a bunch of block colors? It looks like, you know, for want of a better term, it looks like you're watching Bluey, you know, on TV. And that's it. Like understanding the artist's journey is where you begin to understand the art. And so, you know, I'm cool with jumping in, checking these guys out anytime they put something up. If you feel like I brightened your day at all, feel free to buy me a coffee. I'll leave a link in the description. And also you can just click the heart under the video that says thanks. That's YouTube's way of allowing creators or allowing people to reward the creators that they appreciate within YouTube without leaving the app, which is really cool. Like, share, follow, subscribe. And you know what? Hit me up in the comments. What's your favorite Polyphia song? Is there anyone else I should be listening to? Ichikanito is another great one. But look, there's a lot of savant level guitar players out there right now that I'm not aware of. Because like I said, I typically don't sort of deep dive in YouTube. Most time I spend looking up YouTube is figuring out what video to react to next. So thanks again, guys. I really appreciate you being here. Stay primal. I'll catch you on the next one.